Welcome to the Eric T Conversation. I'm Eric T. My daughter sends me a meme today of some McDonald's food that says in the 90s, we really knew how to get our McDonald's orders in proper form. And it was a picture of the old styrofoam hotcakes and sausage with the hash brown on the side, the utensils on the other side, the butter all nice and neat. And I started thinking about it. I was like, McDonald's breakfast used to be a big deal when you're a kid. And if you went as a kid to go get McDonald's breakfast, it was the highlight of your whole Saturday morning. And I started pondering a little bit, and I remember when I was a kid how awesome McDonald's was. It was the biggest thing in the world. When I would travel with my parents and I'd see those golden arches, I was like, I'm hungry. I got to stop. And this is before Happy Meal. This is before Chicken McNuggets. They only had burgers and fries, people, and some milkshakes, things like that, and hot apple pie. That's it. They had nothing else besides that. They had some Big Macs and things like that, but that's really the menu. So I remember as a kid, I was around before Happy Meals even came around, which when they were introduced, that was a big thing. I never got a Happy Meal. I always got a plain hamburger, which is a special ordered item. So when you order a plain hamburger with nothing on it but ketchup, that turns the whole place upside down. And then like, we got a special order, we got a plain burger, just a hamburger, ketchup only, and they would have to make it fresh. And my parents would always have to wait for the food because that wasn't one of them that was in the little slips. It had hamburgers that had pickles, onions, and all that stuff on it. But when you ordered a plain hamburger with just ketchup, it was like a 15-minute wait back in the early 80s and late 70s. And then I remember when they came out with the Chicken McNugget. And I remember being at my friend Charlie's house. This must have been fourth grade. I can't remember what year it was, but I was about 8 or 9 years old. And his mom brought home some Chicken McNuggets. She had gone to McDonald's, and she's like, hey, I just got something new that you guys wanted to try called Chicken McNuggets. And I remember sitting at his countertop eating Chicken McNuggets for the very first time. I remember like just so I remember eating the first Chicken McNugget I've ever had. And now I got another daughter that just all she eats is Chicken McNuggets, and she's not 14. She's a 21-year-old kid, and she eats Chicken McNuggets all the time. That's her thing. So Chicken McNuggets has been around a long time, and I remember being introduced to them. And I remember McDonald's was a really big deal. Now we got all the health food people. They want salads, and McDonald's had to start introducing salads to their menu. If you're at McDonald's, you're not going for a salad. You're going to fill your gut and your belly up with some real greasy food and some stuff that really isn't that healthy for you, but it just tastes so delicious. Delicious. I don't eat it very often, but when I go in there and I get a double hamburger, ketchup only still, and a large fry and a Coke, oh man, it's just the best. It takes me back. Takes me back. Anyway, that's my observation of the day. Now for the conversation. Now, a pretty scathing article came out and published by the Wall Street Journal. And what that article started saying was the head honcho in charge running stuff around here wasn't running stuff at all. Now, if you've been paying attention at all over the last 4 or 5 years, you would have seen it and knew what was going on. It was clearly obvious that he's not running anything. Now, what they said was over the past couple of years, his cabinet officials have been relatively infrequent. He hasn't had any cabinet meetings. He hasn't had any staff meetings. And it is basically his interns or advisors that are with him were holding everybody off at arm's length. So they couldn't really have access to him, and they couldn't get any answers from him because he wasn't running anything. It was people that are behind him up top that are running the show. And if you would have paid any attention over the last 4 or 5 years, you would have seen this individual, not the same guy he was 10, 15 years ago. It's clearly he wasn't. Now, everything was exposed during that debate. Once that debate came out, they couldn't hide it anymore. And now people are starting to say exactly what was happening because they know it's winding down and people are getting themselves prepared to write books. Once he leaves office, you're going to start finding books are going to be published within the next year and a half of people that are blowing the whistle on what it was like in that house. They're going to tell you that he had no idea what was going on. They're going to tell you that other people were making decisions for him. They're going to tell you that people that were in charge of him didn't let him speak. They're going to tell you that they had very infrequent meetings with him and that they didn't know who was running the show. It is clear. If anyone had a grandparent or an elderly parent in those years and they've had these situations with their mental capacity, it was sad. And the debate was sad to watch. He's a very corrupt individual, so I really don't feel too sorry for him. The whole family is crooked and shady. But I feel bad because it's like that guy should be on a porch in a rocking chair somewhere, sipping lemonade, bouncing his grandchildren off his knee. Instead, they got him running the free world. It was very clear once they made him step down. They forced him to step down. Make no bones about it. Nancy Pelosi made him step down. Obama made him step down. They told him, if you don't do this, we're going to let everybody know this is what's going on with you, and we're going to embarrass you, and we're going to go after your family. And that's what he did. He had no choice because that family likes the power, and his wife didn't want to let it go, but they had no choice at this point. So that's why he had to step down. So at the point when he stepped down and wasn't going to run again for re-election, that should make it clear to everyone that the guy's been running the country for the past 4 or 5 months after he was told he wasn't going to run for re-election. He's still running the country, but he's not running the country. So who really is? And that just goes to show you that our country can be ran without anybody up there. So you can imagine how great things are going to go once we get somebody in office who's going to be hands-on, actually making decisions, actually telling people what needs to be done, and implementing plans and policy. Because the guy right now isn't doing it. And the Wall Street Journal clearly tells you that the people that they had in place were watching him, making sure people didn't get to see him as he really is. He was going to bed early at night. And anyone that has dealt with people with that cognitive issue when they get older, they have, it's called nighttime, whatever it is. I'm not going to mention it because you get flagged. So what happens is they start shutting down in the evening. Okay? They can't function like normal people do when it comes later on in the evening. So that's what was happening to him. He was going to bed early and he was getting no briefing. He didn't have a cabinet meeting for a year. And the last person that just had one was 2 months ago? His wife did it, which is weird in all of itself. So read the article. You'll start finding out that in the next year or two, that people are going to be singing like a bird and they're going to be writing books about the situation that happened in the White House. And you're going to be shocked. And then about 10 years from now, there's going to be a documentary on this debacle. How he was the worst one to ever be in office. And he let it happen because they wanted power. And they let it roll and they hit him in the basement. And this is what happens when you do that with the president of the United States. Country goes to shit. That's exactly what's happened. Now, the DA in Georgia, Fannie Willis, just got the old heave-ho because the Georgia State of Appeals voted 2-1 that she is off the case, basically, essentially. She was pretty corrupt. As you can tell, she was sleeping with a guy who was investigating Trump, that lawyer. And he had to go in front of Congress a couple months ago and testify that, yeah, he was, in fact, sleeping with this woman, which I guess he should have been smarter and said, you know what, maybe this isn't a good idea. I take on this cake, which is like, maybe I can hand you all kinds of money. We can go on trips and stuff. It's going to be great. This is a slam dunk. We're going to get Trump. As soon as she said it was about Trump, I would have been like, no, thank you. I don't want any of that. Because as soon as you saw that when he was in the Bronx in New York and he had his rally there, I knew he was going to win the election. Because I used to go to the South Bronx to visit my family all the time. Let me tell you something. When that rally came out and those people were being interviewed, and they were from the South Bronx because they tell by their voice, that all those people that were supporting Trump in the South Bronx, I was like, yeah, he's definitely winning. And if I was that dude, I would have been like, look, I'm out of this because I don't want no part of it because he's definitely going to win this election. And everybody stuck with it. They thought they were going to get him and they couldn't. And just the thought or just the appearance of impropriety got her booted. And that was enough. So now she's disgraced. They didn't drop the charges, but essentially you're going to drop the charges. Now you're going to get a whole new DA. You got to go after him when there's a bunch of BS charges in the first place. It's all going to be dropped. And good. Just winning every day. Good for him. So the left has voted to shut down the government by not voting for the new spending bill because they want to censor freedom of speech. The reason why they're doing that is because they want the Global Engagement Center to stay on it in the bill and get funded. What that is, as I said before, is the Global Engagement Center is a sensory thing to censor disinformation from foreign governments and adversaries. It's a freedom of speech curtail. They're trying to cut it off. You should know that because they want to censor different platforms and social media. So they're leaving that in there so the Congress can have power to do that. They're also trying to curtail the big man's hands when he takes over in office in January so he can't do certain things when he gets in there. So thank the left for shutting down the government because they wanted to block freedom of speech more than they do getting people paid. So congratulations to them. That's what you voted for, people. Start waking up. They don't care about you and me. Anyway, that's my conversation today. Join me next time for a little chit-chat, observation, as a good old-fashioned conversation. Thanks.